All right, we are continuing to follow breaking news out of Georgia. A judge has ruled Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis can continue to prosecute former President Trump's election interference case if special prosecutor Nathan Wade withdraws. Now, Wade is the man with whom she had a romantic relationship with and who she hired to join the case.
Our political panel is here with us now. Terry Sullivan served as the campaign manager for Marco Rubio in 2016 and is a CBS News political contributor. Joel Payne is a CBS News political contributor, Democratic strategist, and chief communications officer for Move On. All right, Terry, let's sort of take a macro view here. It's been a very busy week for the former president as in terms of his legal cases. We've discussed how he tends to see a surge of support following legal challenges. And yet, part of the appeal, I guess, to his supporters is that he consistently seeks to undermine our judiciary, especially when it comes to his own cases. So how do you anticipate this latest ruling with regards to Fani Willis will impact the campaign? I mean, is this a fundraiser for him?
Yeah, look, I think Fani Willis this might be an in-kind contribution from her to his campaign. I mean, here we are talking about how a judge is kicking at least one of the prosecutors off of his case for, at a minimum, the appearance of misconduct. And he intimates in his ruling that he doesn't believe that they were even telling the truth under oath. And so I think that's this is another example of how Donald Trump is often lucky that his opponents make foolish mistakes like this. If this was a well-prosecuted case, we wouldn't be spending time talking about how the prosecutors might be unethical. And so this is a fundraising opportunity for Donald Trump, and it's a huge misstep for the prosecutor and her case.
So, Joel, in regards to sort of the politics of it all, certainly there are many Republicans that believe that Donald Trump's legal challenges are politically motivated. But there are also a number of Republicans that believe, even if they are politically motivated, this is a distraction, this is a weakness, and they're sort of growing wary of it. President Biden's approach has thus far been to not comment on these legal challenges at all. But is there a way for him to take advantage, benefit, use this politically moving forward?
I'm sure there is a way, and I'm sure the Biden folks are thinking about that. I think what's a challenge there, Anne-Marie, is that this is the president, right? He is a candidate, but he is also the acting president, which means he oversees the Justice Department, which is not necessarily, this is obviously a Georgia case, but I think that this president has been pretty clear that he wants to have a red line between, someone like him as an office holder and those who are prosecuting a case. And so I think that's going to have to coexist in some way. Joe Biden's going to have to find a way to be clear about where he stands on what Donald Trump is accused of without being seen as interfering in the case. That's difficult. I don't think the president's team has arrived at how to do that yet, but I think that'll be a challenge for them. But listen, and I tend to agree with Terry. There are certainly some mistakes that were made by DA Willis here, but none of what we're talking about fundamentally changes the underlying facts of the case. We all know, based on what we all saw with our own eyes, what we listened to, the evidence that's been out in the public domain, what Donald Trump is accused of, asking the Secretary of State of Georgia to find a number of votes so that he could beat Joe Biden in 2020, even though it was clear that he lost. And more importantly than myself or Terry, the people of Georgia know. And to Finn's point, from his previous segment that he joined you with, I think a lot of Georgia voters are going to be watching this. This is no longer just a testing ground of the Republican primary. This is now a general electorate, and that's more difficult for Donald Trump.
So, Terry, to the point that Joel is making there, I mean, just away from the decision, the judge ruling on whether this was actually impropriety between Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, how do you see this Georgia case? I mean, do you think that the former president engaged in an attempt to undermine the election in Georgia?
Look, it's boring when I always agree with Joel, but I usually do. Look, this is a case that should have been, very unhelpful at a minimum, politically speaking.
Right, because because both Terry, you and Joel know, not to interrupt you, but you both know that up until this moment, everybody was saying if there's going to be anything that
any of these legal challenges,
it's this one in Georgia. So kind of like suggesting that it was sort of a slam dunk.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not on the jury. I don't know all the facts of the case, but it sure didn't look very promising for Donald Trump as a case, and the appearance was terrible at a absolute minimum. And but the reality is they screwed up and dropped the ball, and now there's this huge distraction. So it really puts doubt on this case that helps Trump. So from the immediate ruling of what has happened here, this is a win for Donald Trump. And what most legal folks said was his toughest case, and he's got to win here today off of this.
Joel, I want to pivot over to some of the other things that happened this week on the campaign trail. As you know, Vice President Kamala Harris visited an abortion clinic in Minnesota. The Vice President's office said it's the first time a Vice President or a president has ever visited a clinic like this. It's clear that the administration is leaning into very hard the question of abortion. I got to admit, I felt like earlier on in this sort of campaign season that this may not be an issue that would move people to the ballot box. But I think after Alabama and the IVF conversation popped up, maybe it is. Can we talk a little bit more about what you're seeing in the polls, what voters seem to be thinking and saying when it comes to the abortion issue?
Look, I think that what we've all seen, whether it's our CBS polls or other public polls, is that the issue that's a big driver that moves people, particularly on the Democratic side, is abortion, is the threat to abortion rights. By the way, it's not just the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade 2 years ago now. It's also the threat to mifepristone, which is the abortion pill that's available to so many Americans. It's the threat to IVF. Vis-a-vis the Alabama case. So this is a front and center issue, top of mind for many Americans, including American women. And I think that Vice President Harris going to this abortion clinic, I think just demonstrates that the issue is seen. I think representation matters so much. And one thing that Vice President Harris can do is show these people that are concerned about this issue that it's top of mind for her. So I just think being there sometimes matters, and it keeps the issue top of mind for voters. And I'm sure that that's what the Biden campaign is trying to do. And I think they'll continue to do it. And I think they'll continue to lean into Kamala Harris as a leading voice in the pushback against the Republican attack on abortion rights.
So, Terry, is that going to be tough for Republicans? Because it seems like they haven't really found their footing in terms of what they are saying about abortion.
Politically speaking, it's a tougher issue for Republicans, but it's the only issue that Joe Biden can really lean into where he's got the advantage on. It's tough for him to talk about the border security, which Americans care more about. It's tough for him, at least in the polling data. It's tough for him to talk about the economy and inflation, which voters in the polling care more about. So, I mean, he's going to lean into this issue because this is the one issue that, from a polling standpoint, he seems to be stronger on.
All right, Terry, Joel, thank you very much.